Hey, hey,
Good
good
morning,
morning.
guys.
Good morning, good morning. So just letting everybody into the room here. So Xiaohui has to go somewhere. He's going to be back at 9:30. Um, and so he left me just to do the recording here. And so we can kind of freestyle and talk about whatever we want. But there's some of those proposed topics in the sCrypt Slack that that we could talk about, but I don't have the info on those. So I think we could probably
Okay.
just freestyle for the first half hour, unless you
Hey
guys
guys.
want to talk about something. Hey, what's up? It's been a while. Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I've skipped 2 weeks. It's always on a weird like time for me because it's Friday afternoon, so
Right.
everybody wants to do something Friday afternoon. Yeah.
Well, it's good to see you. Where what region are you in again? It's like
What's
country.
that?
If you what country or part of Europe? I forget.
Oh, Slovenia.
Slovenia. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like Friday plus probably 9 hours for me.
6
So
p.m. 6
6
p.m.
p.m. Okay, okay.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is a weird time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody, if somebody wants to do something like friends that hang out or something, it's always Friday 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
so we'll see who else joins here. Looks like Samir is here, but he's on silent mode. And then we have somebody named JT who's on silence. But so what do you guys think? Are you excited with the results of the court case?
I think the court case result is interesting for a number of reasons, but I think a lot of people are focused on that more so than kind of
Building
building in the
stuff?
space.
Yeah, I know,
Right.
right?
Like I
It
posted a
seems like the
question. I think it
distraction.
was Yeah. I posted a question. I think it was on one of the it wasn't the verdict stream, but it was one of the ones before, and I said something like, "Do you think the quote unquote jury would rather focus on the and by jury, I didn't mean the literal jury, but I meant like the jury of like time and the market over like 20 years and people, history basically, would rather us focus on Satoshi's private life for the next 10 years, or would they rather focus on, or would they rather us focus on actually building meaningful technology or those sorts of things? Um, and so, in as much as it detracts from our focus on actually building things and making things happen in the space, I think that it could be seen as a harmful kind of just meme of sorts that just serves to derail things a little bit. But if it does result in the injection of new capital into BSV businesses and things like that, then maybe I think it could be a good thing. We'll see whether that ends up happening as a result.
Yeah, I think it's already created a lot of new exposures to new group of people who are kind of like unaware of BSV, Bitcoin as a space, and the understanding of this space. So I think that like I think there's a positive impact there as well, because this court case is definitely going to bring in more people who just want to understand what this really means. And yeah, I think the trigger point might be the court case, the CSW's court case, but again, once they're in, and they start understanding what this is, and just like how our path was, right? So there has to be some kind of trigger point. I think this does provide that trigger point for a lot of new folks to come in and just to understand the technology and to better understand Bitcoin. So yeah, I see it as a really positive thing.
Yep, I see it likewise, and it probably won't come right away. It will come like a wave like after a year, because if you noticed when Ryan did the playlist with Craig, right, Theory of Bitcoin, that brought a lot of new people in, including me. But those people who started learning then once those videos came out, and it's slowly like the more you got involved, and they actually became involved like in with the other people and building stuff like a year after or so.
Right. Yes, it definitely takes some time for these things to see
Yeah.
the effect of them. I think I said that one time. Chawa kept on he's like, how are we going to get more viewers? How are we going to get more whatever? I'm like, just give it some time. Just like wait a little bit. But so yeah, it's going to yeah, I think I was watching like, and again, it totally distracted me a lot from my work, but I was watching all the different the Kurt Wilkert CoinGeek, reports, and it was very exciting, and I was so happy that he got a positive result because it's about time. So but yeah, it's funny to see all these other people trying to spin it like, in all the different ways, and it's like, oh my gosh.
I think that's always going to happen. Unfortunately, like no matter what results sort of happen factually, nowadays we've gotten to a place where I think people have just gotten really used to and good at, and they've accepted the idea that we should just build all of these narratives around things, and when that happens, it certainly creates I guess a tendency towards allowing people to continue in their existing bubble or system of beliefs, regardless of factual circumstance, at least to a very large extent. I don't think it's so severe of a problem that facts no longer have a bearing on what people believe, but it certainly seems like in this case, like they're going to be able to spin things. They're going to be able to keep their whole bubble intact and keep their narrative stitched together in the same way that we do unconsciously as well. I mean, I think everybody kind of is trending towards that, unfortunately. But yeah, I just see a lot of the different sides of this, the different narratives at play, and it's certainly interesting to see how people rationalize, justify, and compensate for reality as they experience it.
Yeah, I think my favorite reaction, and JT just entered the room. So wait, Samir is now in a second one. Nice to see your face. Feel free to talk whenever. But yeah, my favorite one was that somebody posted this BitBoy crypto guy, and he's like, wait, it was like a live stream right when he got the news. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yes, one was. He's like, that can't be breaking news. Wait, is this a meme? It was so funny.
Wait a minute, who are you?
so anyways, Phil said that he's going to be dropping in and out in the chat. So I don't know about that. So we'll see. All right. So Xiaohui left me with some topics, but I didn't realize. I thought he was going to be leaving early. I didn't realize that he was going to be leaving me with the meeting here. So,
what do we have on? We have the code separator thing, which I think is kind of interesting. It's not really. I haven't seen many use cases of it before the article that he posted. And I think it's a very useful technique for optimizing some things. I mean, when you have multiple signatures and things, you can kind of create them, I guess, not entirely separately, because there's ones that have to be created that sort of incorporate, the first signatures have to incorporate all of the things from the end of the script, but the things at the end of the script, because they're after a separator, if I'm not mistaken, don't have to incorporate all of the data into the signatures. If I'm again, this is just kind of I don't fully understand this. Maybe people who understand it a little bit more can speak to this a little bit, but I do see it as a good technique for optimization, and maybe even separating out certain things from needing to be signed to begin with.
Yeah, I'm just, more than me. I'm just I'm searching for it right now. It says it looks like it's some sort of, I'm just going to be reading the definition here. Sorry. I have nothing to add to this. Maybe we should talk about something else because there's nothing really. I'm just going to be looking like an idiot here. I think maybe he had some news about it or something. So
yeah, he made an article. He made an article recently on Medium, I want to say, where he was talking about using it in sCrypt, where you could do like the 3 stars, or if you have 3 or more asterisks in a row, and it kind of inserts this code separator thing. And so I think that's kind of what he was showcasing. He showcased a practical application of code separator in an article. And so he'll probably talk about those sorts of things when he gets back there.
Great. So he said he'd be here at about 9:30. So we'll just save it for then. How's your project coming with Project Babbage and stuff?
I don't know. I made a 15-second video on Twitter yesterday because I don't know. Yesterday I really didn't do very much, honestly. But in the evening I was talking to one of my friends, and she said, "Well, Project Babbage I think it's just too advanced. It's like gave the analogy of Nikola Tesla comparatively." So I decided I was going to make a 15-second animated advertisement and put it up on Twitter and basically say that the point of the advertisement is I was just listing all these features of Babbage. I was like, we have multi-party encryption, we have content distribution on a global network, we have micro payments, and there's only one password, and blah blah blah. And so that's kind of what I did yesterday. And aside from that, just connecting the dots and getting some people on board with it is kind of what I've been mainly working on. I definitely think. I've been focused on. There's an issue with NanoStore presently, where people can't upload more than 32 megabytes. So I've been trying to fix that because NanoStore is supposed to be the underlying like disk sector level thing that can run, like on a hard drive, you have all these different sectors, and they're like, I don't know, what is it, like 512 bytes or something, very small amount, and they can be blocked together in order to create, file systems and things on higher layers. So I've been focused on making some optimizations to that, making it into actually adding like the Google. So Google has contracts with all these different ISPs all across the world. And so I've been using the Google like CDN to bring the content very, very close to end users kind of automatically.
That's
and
cool.
That's one thing, and just, going along and scaling everything up and trying to stabilize, writing tests, fixing errors that I can find, things like that. And I've been working on some other things, but go ahead.
Awesome. One of my favorite topics to watch videos about is the Amazon warehouses and how they organize everything, and they'll have it, like in specific locations in specific cities, but then they have all these robotics that, sort of predict what people in that region will be ordering. And then but there's no humans anymore that go, walk the shelves. It's like these robots that will pre-populate. Well, it's not even that they pre-populate it. It's that the shelves move to the people.
Right.
But then the question is, which product should be kind of, the most prioritized and stuff. And so they just have this machine learning thing that's predicting everything. And to a normal human, it just looks like this total mess. Like in every shelf, there's 20 different products of different things. But it makes sense to the computer, and it's all optimizing. It's like it's a super cool thing. So when you talked about you're trying to get, at the Google Cloud, you get to choose which region it is, and it reminded me of that.
Yeah, essentially the idea is that if you put content into and this gets a little bit technical, but if you put content into a Google Cloud storage bucket, You can then hook the bucket up to a load balancer directly. The load balancer has a globally, it's not a region specific IP address. So it's like globally routable, very, routable to multiple places, like using the Google network. You can then enable the content, the CDN, which like caches all of these things and puts it basically on all the, use the buzzword, but like the edge of the network, so to speak. Just bringing things closer to users and reducing latency, I guess. So that way we can do things like encrypted video, like an on-chain YouTube, basically. Like that's not very far out, believe it or not. Like I already have an on-chain. Well, my NanoStore demo has on-chain. You can put photos on-chain. In Convo Messenger, you can send photos. And I'm actually working on an audio, like a Spotify type thing that works fully on-chain with audio for songs, and like that's done now. So video, if we can do that, then suddenly we have an on-chain YouTube with videos that are encrypted, and then you just go buy the key or buy a chunk of the video. Maybe split it up in 15-second chunks at the beginning, and smaller chunks as time goes on. And
here's the question I have for you, and that sounds super cool, and I'm like, I would really like to learn more about that, because I want to have a thing. But my question is, and this is the debate with Strumanity, my question is, why does it have to be on chain? Why is that such an important thing? Or could it just be that you're settling for the the agreement that somebody's going to send me this file? You do that stuff on chain, but then it's like, remember the whole thing about the content delivery networks? The appeal, because the whole idea with Strumanity was, it's going to be censorship resistant and blah, 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 blah. And that's why it has to be on chain. But I think the thing that excites me, sorry, I'm not let's talk, but the thing that excites me is more the payments and the business models. It's not so much the whatever. But so anyways, go ahead.
I have a slightly different definition of an on-chain application. NanoStore does not enable, it does not, I think I've covered this in the past, but it does not put the actual data, like the video file itself, on chain in like an operatorn or something. It just is an economic mechanism similar to Bridgeport, by which a content, in my case, my NanoStore node, or anybody can run a NanoStore, they can try to run a NanoStore node, just like anybody can try to run a Bitcoin node. Not that they would succeed unless they've done all the things properly and made the proper investments. But it's just a way for them to commit to hosting a file and say, like, look, this is the URL of the file and this is a hash, right? But my definition of on-chain, and it's kind of an ambiguous thing. It's not technically on-chain in that sense. The transactions do not contain all of the information. But it is a system that can be fully derived from, so I can derive the state of this application from the state of the blockchain at any time. And so the power there is that when the content is uploaded, we're putting it in NanoStore, and then we have like a protocol for, here's the title of my video, here's the description, here's the the tags, the whatever else is associated with the video, the author ID, obviously. When that is in a transaction on chain, then now we have a protocol by which that type of data can be uploaded and exchanged. And then each application can independently, each front end can interpret that particular protocol in different ways. So like how we have multiple Twitch clients, so to speak. Although that's not necessarily a great example, because they've been trying to, I don't know exactly what they've been. I've heard of some issues with that particular application in this regard. But having the ability to derive the state of the application from chain, and then having the keys to videos and things held by users and not by applications. And remember that in Babbage, there's a clear distinction between users and applications. I mean, a user has keys that can be used across different applications. We can then enable applications to be created such that the users, by uploading to the chain, retain sort of ownership over things and the ability to later go back and reinterpret those same uploads, those same transactions in different ways in the future from different applications to represent them in a better user interface, provide different monetization techniques, even different things, because really the potential that this provides is, and what Bitcoin can do generally, at least in one instance, is go back and retroactively, reapply or what's the word I used in that video I was talking with Shamir? Reascribe different meaning to the things that have happened in the past at some future time, if that makes sense. So I take actions today, and then tomorrow those actions still exist, so I can reparse them and create a new, a separate viewer, for example. Or maybe there's different viewers for different market segments or something, and have them all kind of interconnected, and that's kind of the advantage that I see in putting it on chain, not censorship resistance in the sense. Go ahead.
So when you say reascribe, it's like present it. I'm trying to, maybe I should look up what ascribe means, but you're looking at it in a new way. You're presenting it with a new frame. Is that kind of what you're talking about? I'm trying to understand from a reascribe. I'm Googling, or I'm dictionary looking up here, but you could explain it. I just don't understand. I didn't understand that part.
Well, okay. So picture the evolution of chat applications. You have IRC, Skype, and then I'm probably missing a few hundred of them that happened before I was really conscious. Discord, Telegram, and Slack. Those, imagine if all of the IRC chats used like a base protocol. Skype extended that. Discord forked the Skype protocol and did some different things to it. Slack, but they're all, and even if they don't even use the same base protocol, all of this data is on chain. So what that means is I can write a Bridgeport bridge, and I'm using Bridgeport as a tangible thing here because that's kind of, and you could do it in a different way. You don't have to use Bridgeport, but I'll use Bridgeport because, I built it, so I'm kind of biased. But you could write a Bridgeport bridge that takes all of those different protocols, pulls them in, normalizes them, right? So normalizing meaning taking all of these different things and just putting them into a common format by interpretation and inference and whatever else. And now I have this collated data set from the blockchain, and you couldn't do that before because all of the history was in silos.
Right. It kind of on the server specific to that app, kind of.
And so if I make a new messaging app, I'm reascribing like the IRC and the Skype and whatever else. Like you can actually scroll up and just see your message history from like 30 years ago that you said on IRC or something. If that's in the protocol.
Right. But now this time it's in a new kind of format.
Right.
In a new, visual app.
Right.
But it may, and it may
maybe there's going to be some artifacts.
Yeah. It may have like a little user interface element to even signal that this was an old chat from an older time or something. It might not have all the features of the newer types of chat, but it'll be there. So yeah, that makes sense. That's really cool.
Yeah. And people say, well, that's going to be really bad because you're going to have all these things represented in really wacky ways and trying to convert things that shouldn't be converted and whatever else. But my response to that is, if there's two chat apps and one of them does that, and one of them is much better and actually finds ways to rectify all of these different issues and listen to the feedback from the users, etc. You can then sort of the chat app that people use in the future to send their messages the most, right, is going to make the most money, and so the market will favor the one that provides the best, that does it right, so to speak, that does it the way that people want. And so those artifacts would maybe exist, but they'll probably be kept to a minimum, because as a chat app, I don't want people to see artifacts. I want people to see a cohesive picture of their past, their history, such that, and across protocols, by the way, such that I, as a user, decide to use that chat app to send my next message, and not a competitor chat app, because the user pays the chat app when it sends the message, a small amount, right? So the idea is that those protocol level differences could even be normalized by the UX layer, since the competition is forced up to the UX layer.
Yeah, one of the things that always has kind of bothered me is how some of these apps can just change everything on you. Like Facebook will just change their way of doing it, and now your interface is. And remember, people used to get so mad; they'd like create these groups.
Yeah,
I haven't been on there in a while, but back when I was there, they'd create these groups, like force Facebook to change it back to the old interface, et cetera, et cetera. And but now they do whatever they want, like on all these apps. They just, one day you'll wake up and you open it, it's totally something else. And
remember, Skype 6 to Skype 7 was really bad. Skype 7.0, if anyone else remembers that, maybe it was Skype. No, I think it was definitely 7.0. Might have been 8.0.
Hello, guys.
Hey, you're
Hi,
back.
Xiaohui.
I was in another meeting.
All right.
Okay.
So yeah, we've just been chatting about, we talked about, let's see, a little bit about the court case. We started talking about Project Babbage, and then now we're talking about just how like user interfaces can just change on you. And what I was going to say is that it might be kind of interesting if like you had to pay to upgrade to the new one, or maybe not even pay, but you had to like explicitly upgrade to the new one. And then if you're actually paying per use, like per post or per like whatever, then whichever one is actually the most economically profitable would be the user interface that stays, and you could have multiple ones. But I don't know how.
Well, each user could kind of pick.
Yeah,
and they could switch between them even if they were so inclined, I would think.
Right. It might be kind of a mess to have everybody on different, like I know with one of the things that Apple prides itself on for developers is we have 80% of our people on the new operating system, and it makes everything much easier. But instead of it being all, I guess the advantage that I'm saying right now is that right now we still have these companies that are still kind of deciding what's going to be the best. But what if you could actually have whatever's the most profitable interface will be the one that everybody focuses their attention on? It would be more of a free market rather than kind of a centrally planned dictatorship type of thing.
Yeah, well, even in the, I guess that the job of a UX researcher is kind of that, right? Except that right now they're focusing on a particular platform, which is the company normally has some sort of a revenue objective that they're trying to hit. And that is normally tied into user experience to a large extent. So UX researchers' job is typically to try and figure out how to optimize for whether it is stickiness, conversion, or any one of a number of these parameters, right? So they will run all these tests, they will do focus groups or whatever it takes, in user interviews, etc., to try and figure out what kind of interface aligns with the company's objectives. So they sort of look at what is the demographic they're targeting, what is the population, what does the population look like, and then for that particular group, on aggregate, they'll try to move the needle in a particular direction. So you're definitely going to get people at the edges who are going to be unhappy, but then if the company's numbers move in the positive direction, they don't particularly care, and I can't fault them for that. It is interesting though, right? When we start pushing compute to the edges, where users start to own the data, when you get data ownership residing at the edges of the computation with the user's platform, how that would play out, right? Because the implicit assumption with user data ownership is that you would expect a marketplace to appear for user interfaces, like a free market for user interfaces that overlays user data as well. So I expect that if we successfully transition from the centralized world into the into compute at the edges with sort of peer-to-peer networking, that a whole different type of or class of jobs will be created, focused around targeting specific sets or groups of users with specific types of interfaces to take specific advantage of data.
Well, what you just reminded me is, it's like people always say, which is true. It's like, if you're not paying, then you're the product. So if you have a free product like Facebook or Instagram or all these things, then if you're not paying for it, then you're the product. But now if we have the ability to actually pay directly for these different things, it might change things up a little bit. But right, because you said the UX team is trying to optimize around a specific objective, and et cetera, et cetera. So they have to make it friendly for advertisers and that kind of thing. But if you're actually paying directly, then maybe as the actual customer, you could actually have more control over, these UX changes. And there's all sorts of things like the books, like when you're reading an ebook and then they update it on you. It's like, wait, I didn't want to update. Like, give me a different version, or it should be like, this is volume, or edition 1, edition 2, or whatever. But it's like they just update it on you, and you're like, like it doesn't. You don't have a sense that you actually own this thing. It's this thing that's constantly changing on you. And in the case of the different communication platforms, the social media, it's like they just completely own. You're just like a guinea pig, really. But you're not the end user. And so maybe with all these different, some food for thought, but maybe you could actually make the end user be the actual human.
Yeah. Well, you're not the customer. That's the thing, right? If you use Facebook and you're a Facebook user, you're not a Facebook customer. The customer is the person that pays Facebook money, right?
Exactly, which is advertisers. And so that's what you reminded me of, is when the UX changes, they're optimizing it for a specific objective, which is, of course they're trying to keep the users happy, but ultimately it's about what's gonna, get revenue for the company. But if people are actually paying directly for the products, then we could actually have whatever is most profitably, whatever makes the customers happiest. Okay, which is the human system, not the advertisers.
I would argue they're not trying to make the I would argue they're not trying to make the users happy, so to speak. I would say they're trying to make the users pacified. I would say they're indifferent to whether users themselves are happy in the sense of positive well-being, etc. I think they're just trying to make them like, in the sense that when we give a cow a bunch of food prior to slaughtering it, we're trying to make the cow happy, but
right.
We're really just pacifying it.
Right.
Yeah, if you can drive engagement through unhappiness, they will absolutely make the world miserable.
Have you been to any social media recently in the last 10 years? It's always you probably will not be happy if you the first thing you did is going to log into Facebook or Twitter. The world is burning every single day, right?
Well,
look at the top 10, right?
Yeah.
The top 10 trending topics. When's the last time you see some like happy news there? I've never seen. Yeah.
There's this book called The Attention Merchant by Timothy Wu, I believe. And so it talked about the history of newspapers. And way back in the day, you'd actually pay directly for the newspaper. It was like, 5 cents or whatever. But then this guy had the idea, and the news was really boring. It was just things like, stock prices or company or government policies, like just very dry stuff, but important stuff, and it was all factual, that kind of thing. But then this guy had the idea where it was like, what if we basically give the newspaper away for free and we'll sell attention? And this is like the beginning of the advertising in newspapers. And as soon as they made that switch, it went away from all this kind of fact thing. And they just sort of started like, grabbing people's attention with like super sensational headlines, gossip columns. There's this exclusive where it was supposedly these scientists with a telescope found these things on the moon, and they had all these drawings of, you know, of these moon bats, and it's like, this is like all like, you know, historical. It's not, and so he resurfaced all this stuff, but it was like in the 1800s or 1900s, I forget, but there was you know, these articles exclusive to this magazine. It ran like, you know, time after time, and it was what they discovered on the moon, and it was just completely made up. They had all these drawings of like this. It's just crazy. So the point of this is that as soon as you switch the incentives away from actually paying for, you know, news, but instead it's they're trying to capture your attention to sell to advertisers, the news quality just went way down. And so I think that's part of why he wrote the book, was to point out that, hey, look, this is what's happening right now with social media. So I think not only will it help us with user interface, but it may also help us with truthiness and actually getting real, you know, news.
So, so what do you guys, so about that, right? What do you guys think of the, I know that prediction markets are not necessarily, sometimes have a bad rep because people start predicting who's going to die or who's going to get assassinated, and gambling around that. But I wonder if there's room for prediction markets around truthiness of news, where the prediction market essentially pays out for truthiness.
I think I've seen this. Go ahead.
So I think so yeah, like I remember back in the day, I forget which one it was called. Was it Augur? I think it was Augur or something. It was like a prediction type market on Ethereum. And that was supposedly how we're going to get facts about the real world, is through these different markets and stuff like that, which was exciting, and it could very well be the thing. But recently, in the past, like, you know, couple of years, I started thinking in different terms. And I started saying like, well, what if somebody writes an article and then it goes the money, and let's assume that people are paying directly for that article. Then there's going to be this pool of money that's being collected. But what if instead of it going directly to them, it goes into an escrow for however many days, 30 days. And then you can have different people, basically, it's like this bug bounty, but all this money is in an escrow. And if different people can prove that it's wrong in some way, and of course, how are you going to, you know, who's going to be the judges and this kind of stuff, but maybe you could actually have judges that are qualified in some different way. But then if they can be proven wrong, then they lose the bounty. You see what I mean? And so we're no longer actually paying for, because right now, if you read a stupid article, a clickbaity headline, as long as you click on the page and you're exposed to the advertisements, they've got their monetization. So the only way to disincentivize that is just to never click on their stuff. But what if you can still click on it and read it, but then there's a bounty and there's all these people that are literally fighting to the nail on these huge headlines, trying to extract every little inaccuracy. That's the terms that I'm thinking in now. But the prediction markets could also be a solution to that. Could all kind of work together.
I wonder if there was perhaps an opportunity to take some money off of Arthur Van Pelt in the Satoshi trial.
So sorry, you cut out, but take it off what?
No, I said, I wonder if there was perhaps an opportunity with the prediction market to take money off of Arthur Van Pelt with the Satoshi trial.
Probably. Probably. Yeah. So is prediction markets, I know, have some legality issue. Is that why? It's because of the assassination things, or?
I have no idea.
It's just gambling.
I think it.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, I think it's got to do with gambling licenses, perhaps. In general, I don't know why they haven't taken off, because Gambling is only really a concern in some places and not all places, which is why you can get you still get online gambling, right, in a lot of places without necessarily, but which are jurisdiction locked to a degree. I would have expected prediction markets to be a lot further along than what they are at the moment.
So here's the number one challenge, my understanding, why it hasn't taken off. Right? So let's say we are betting whether Craig wins the, this trial, right? But who's going to say? Because now you can clearly see, right? Even after the verdict, there's still two verdicts, right? Some people say it's win for Craig. A lot of other people say he lost, right? Because he has to give out whatever 100 million. I think that because if you have some kind of prediction market, now who's your trusted oracle, right? Who's going to tell you that there's no centralized place like a truth department, right? I hope,
right?
Unless you
and this is the same. This is the same issue that we're gonna have with my idea with the bug bounty thing. For news, it's like who gets to decide
what is true, right?
Whether
this
is an inaccuracy or not. Yeah. And so, but what you could have is you record the history of all these people's things. It's like when people are in Congress voting on things, like you get to see their record of voting, and then later on. I don't know. Have you guys ever watched the thing by Ray Dalio? It's like shoot, what's the name of it? I did this in a video a while back, but I forget what it was called. It was like how to build a company where the best ideas win. And he has this thing where they record like all sorts of company meetings, all sorts of information that all the employees are entering. And they literally record like all this stuff during meetings. And then they have this thing that calculates people. It's a meritocracy, basically. And they calculate all these things of the companies, how accurate were they on voting on different things in the past? Did that actually, because they're basically doing prediction because it's an investment company. So how accurate were they at predicting the future in the past and that kind of stuff? But that's a really big inspiration for my ideas for this. Go ahead, Xiaohui.
Yeah, another way to think. I think I got this idea from some BDC guys. So think about insurance, right? You can also think about insurance as some kind of a prediction market. For example, I buy car insurance, right? So I'm betting on myself. I predict I will not get into a car accident. No, I will get in one. And the insurance company is betting against me, right? Saying, okay, you will not get into a car accident because if I get in one, I mean, financially they lost, right? Because I may get hurt. That's another story. But I try not to, right? You are also betting on whether I will get into a car accident or anything. So, and it's legal, right? So it doesn't have to always have to, who got assassinated or who's going to win the court case or whatever. A lot of places I would say that it's much easier to determine, to find out what outcome it is. So both parties, because if you get into a car accident, unless you are faking it, like intentionally, but still, right, if your car get wrecked, it could hurt and anything, versus, I think even trial is also more clear. Anything, the outcome can be more easily judged. That's much easier to implement prediction market. And there was already a prediction market, as I said, right? Insurance, you can think about. It's illegal, right?
Are you saying that an implementation of or replacing an insurance contract with a prediction market is essentially what we're talking about, where instead of having an insurance company, you have a prediction market for insurance where you or me as the insured party goes to the market and essentially bets that I will get into an accident, which means that I pay into the market, and then somebody takes the other end of that bet which is to predict that I won't get into an accident. And is that what you're saying? And then presumably, I don't know.
Close, but not exactly. What I'm saying is you can regard it, the whole insurance industry as kind of a prediction market because you are betting on the two different outcomes. Right? I'm not saying you have to be anything with the to do with blockchain or anything. You can. I'm saying maybe you can put it because for me, I always think about the blockchain or smart contract is you can achieve the same result, but maybe at a lower cost, right? Because for example, insurance company, they may have a, I don't know, higher premium because they have to employ thousands of people. It's same with the banks, right? If I pay you with credit card and anything, wire, it's going to be more expensive because so many people have to be involved, right? Versus I just pay you with Bitcoin. It's just some miners have to do some calculation and then that's it. So the cost is there's much less human involved. This is you can cut the cost. Maybe something you can do it in the insurance level too, because if you can very easily get some, let's say Oracle, right? You can easily choose this Oracle is very trustworthy. You can know this whether this guy gets a car get destroyed or the house gets destroyed or that because of the hurricane or something. If you can programmably know this, and then you can put the whole contract on chain, right? Then it's much easier. So hopefully the cost will also go down. So that means you pay as an end user, you may have to pay lower premium insurance for the same coverage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it's definitely makes sense. More efficient, less overhead, and lower cost.
One of the things like with a car company, like the insurance thing, like you actually document as much as possible. Like, here's the accident, here's the pictures, etc. And so for certain things, it is very, it's more binary than others. But so
I mean, one of the things with these, Kevin, what you were talking about earlier with these incentive systems, you said that we have these incentives around. When the incentives changed with the newspaper industry, for example, the results changed in terms of the quality of news went down. And I think that was a gradual process. And it's only been, I would say, it's gotten worse over the past 5-10 years. I've been around long enough to make an assessment for a longer period than that. But I do know that since I've been even politically conscious and whatnot, it's been getting worse and worse. So my theory is that it's a time delayed, well, not time delayed, but almost like a moving average, a 231 candle moving average, if anybody knows what that is from the trading stuff. But the point is like the incentives can change, and then all of the pundits will say, hey, look, we changed something, but nothing's happening. It didn't work. Your system is broken. And then 5-10 years down the line, everything is changed, and suddenly all of the pundits are saying, "Oh my gosh, this is an atrocity! Why ever could this have possibly happened? We don't know what the cause of this is." When 5 years ago, the same people were saying how the incentive change did nothing. So I see on a long term plane here that people need to allow things to sort of allow the effect of something to propagate through the system, and then allow the market to discover what changes are most appropriate, and then allow those changes to be implemented, which in the largest of systems can take a number of years or even perhaps decades. And so I just think it's interesting to see the delays there, and then to still hear all of these people say, well, we changed the incentives. Why isn't it like I've had people say, well, you've got all these better incentives with Project Babbage. Why is nobody using it? Why is the internet not fixed now? It's like, okay, well, we had all these horrible incentives that happened. Maybe they, someone changed something in the 1920s with this paid advertising model, and it's only 100 years later that we're seeing the full horrible effects of what that can do to an entire society or something. I mean,
but you have to understand is that there's still, even in newspapers, like things like Wall Street Journal or Barron's, they're not perfect, but they're better.
Right.
And you're actually paying, like if you pick up Barron's, you have to pay directly for it, and you look at it,
Yeah.
and the topics are more about how are you going to make money? Like here's an investment idea, here's an interview with these people, blah, 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 blah. Versus if you pick up a different one, like, you know, I'm trying to think of, you know, People Magazine.
Condé Nast Traveler, or People Magazine, or
it's just going to be
all
completely gossip. It's just going to be all gossip, and it's going to be, you know, it's just junk. So it just depends on the magazine and newspaper.
Sorry for cutting in. I was going to say this idea, right, that you mentioned, Kevin, about how the newspaper industry gradually ended up going after the attention of people. That nearly came to, well, it did come to tears in almost it came to tears when the internet nearly, well, it killed off a lot of them and nearly killed off the entire industry because they were so slow to respond to the fact that the attention that they had been chasing after had essentially vaporized out from under them and moved onto the internet. So they had to figure out how to go chase the attention on the internet then.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think these different, you know, new paradigms that are like, well, we talked about this before with, I think it was a story from the olden times with accounting, like was it the Rothschilds? I forget. It was one of these like banking families, but they built this better system of accounting of who owed who what, and they had a better sense of.
Medicis?
No, that was the people that did the. Wasn't that the people that did federal or you know, the, what do you call that? Now my mind is blanking. No, they started doing the central banking idea. What's it called? Where you what's the overarching term for that? Fractional reserve banking.
Reserve. Okay.
That's what the Medici family started, I think. I could be wrong, but
okay.
No, I think the Rothschilds, they had a better system of accounting, and it was these brothers that trusted each other or something. I shouldn't be talking about this because I have no idea. Somebody's going to tell me I'm an idiot, which is probably true. But what I do know is that they have it for a system of accounting, that a better system of accounting, that a better sense of what is actually happening, what is the truth. And that's how they became so much wealthier than everybody else, right? And so if you can actually have a better handle on the truth of what's going on, instead of all this, you know, just made up news. Like imagine if you're acting, like let's say that you read this article where there's these moon bats on the moon, and there's all these, you know, rivers, and like you should see these pictures that they painted of what the moon looks like. Yeah, exactly. So imagine that you are acting on that news, and you're like Elon Musk, you build this spaceship company because you're going to go harvest all this stuff from the moon, and then you get there and it's not actually there. It's like, oh, it's just this empty rock. So if you're acting on that information, you're going to be making a lot of errors. But if you're acting on the real truth, which is, oh, it's, you know, this surface that's made out of this rock with this amount of whatever chemicals and this amount of elements. And if you actually have the truth, then you're going to be making much wiser decisions. And so, you know, that's...
Okay. Speaking of, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was going to follow up to just maybe say that Google says that double entry bookkeeping was invented by the Venetian merchants.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. Speaking of saving the internet, can we just go back to the few articles we just released this week? So if you don't have more time, we can just go over. Yes, I think that can solve a lot of problems. Hopefully, as a very first step to solving many of our problems. Kevin, can you enable share screen?
Okay, I'll do my best. So where do I go? Sorry,
yeah,
guys,
go to share screen. I think that's one Yeah, allow like a
Oh, yeah, share
participant
Little
screen.
up
to share.
arrow,
Okay,
and then
okay.
allow multiple.
Yeah.
Okay, multiple. Here we go.
Okay. All right, thanks.
There we go.
So this is just one, I think, a baby step. So I talk about the idea to use payment channels to, stream videos. But you can imagine this can go any type of a media, right? Audios and even newspapers, right? Because if we apply this to newspapers, what will happen? You go to, let's say, Wall Street Journal. So if you read you are not only read the headline, you can get rid of. You can have ads, but you can also get rid of ads. Basically, you scroll it down. As you scroll, you pay. You are streaming the article, and anytime you find, oh, this is just some tabloids, this is not true, you can just stop, and they can also stop getting paid. So I just use Netflix because it's more like intuitive here. So basically, what it does here is use the so-called payment channels, right? And pay as you go. You don't even have to sign up, and if you do it correctly, nobody can cheat. Basically, I only look at, and also you only pay for what you have watched, right? Same for newspapers or even say music, right? You're like a streaming content. Let's say you watch 1 second, you pay, I don't know, 2 satoshis, 1 satoshi. And then you just keep watch 10, you pay 10 satoshis. Anytime you want to stop, you stop. And then the other party also stop streaming to you. So nobody can cheat. There's no sign up. And also because you don't have to pay with credit card, right? I mean, what's can be more cost effective in terms of payment, right? You can do micro payment. So that means if you are just like not a big celebrity, you don't even have to go to Netflix or YouTube, right? You can just set up a website, people go there, if they like it, they start watching, and then you get instant pay. It's kind of like a Streamality, but people are saying it's like a upgraded version. You don't have to watch, because Streamality, right? You pay like I don't know, $1 or something, but you either buy the whole thing or not, right? You cannot say, oh, I only want to watch half of it. That's impossible. So here, and also you need to sign up anything. So that means if you're like a independent, let's say content creator, you can just put it on your site and people go there, they can just start watching, and then you get instant pay. So then it's incentive, right? I'm talking about incentive here. So what's the incentive in this model? You're producing the best quality content, right? Because otherwise, if you just, it's like a lot of movies, right? You look at the trailer, it's like grand and fabulous. Then you go to watch the whole movie. Oh, dude, this 2-minute trailer is probably the best highlight of the whole movie. So you already watched the free trailer. So why do I spend, I don't know, pay $10 for this movie? So it's not a problem for here, right? Because I think I get this idea from Craig because he has been talking about this example forever. He says he could go to Netflix or some other website. He wants to pay per view, but usually just on the trailer is super good. And then maybe a first minute or two is also good. But after that, you like, dude, what am I? I'm like wasting my money here. So if you have this incentive, right? So what is the content creators or the newspapers going to do? They have to produce good quality content, because otherwise people, even they click the headline, they go into, they read the first graph or two, they find it, oh, it's not interesting or not give me truthful information. I will just stop.
Right.
I don't have to keep scrolling.
Yeah, this is perfect. I think one of the things interesting is what like when I'm making a YouTube video, I always say, okay, I have my first 30 seconds, I have to be engaging. Otherwise people are just going to completely tune out. But if I'm just trying to look at the worst case scenario of this, but imagine I remember when I was in school and we had to take literature classes, there's different elements of the story where you're trying to build up a character and information about this character. And then you have to do this and this, and it all leads into the peak of the story, etc. And so the worry that I have with this is that you're not like, if every single moment has to be 100% engaging, then you're never actually going to have time for some of the more boring stuff, which may be character development, that kind of stuff. But I think for different elements like news or whatever, but I'm not against this. I don't want to say I'm against it. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. But if you're actually paying per second, then I'm just trying to think of what's like, we've already talked about what happened with the newspapers. Like, what's the worst case that could happen with this? But I think it's better. It's obviously better than something like, you know, it's like when another example is when we switched to iTunes and you started paying per song. Then what happened was, it used to be like you pick up an album and every song ties into each other and it was all good, and like you'd sit down with this full album and you'd listen to the whole thing. And then when we started paying per song, then all the people just optimized, oh my gosh, we have to have one hit. And then they all focused on these songs and the rest are fillers, and the album fell apart. And so I'm not saying that we can't, that can't happen. Like, it's just kind of creative destruction. But what I am saying is that, what do you think the future will look like when you're paying per second or whatever it is? And maybe there's some sort of way where you can actually use these contracts also to pay, just to get the option to pay for larger chunks. I don't know what it is.
I don't know the future. I cannot predict. But here's the thing: it's always good to have alternatives, right? For example, what's happening now is you have all this. It's like if you're like a heavy consumer, you always go to a certain site to watch movies. It's probably make more sense to have subscription, right? Because if you're buying in batch, probably you get discount and you don't worry about it, right? But here's the thing, right? That means, if I use the crypto words, is this few sites becoming more centralized over time, right? Because if everybody goes to Amazon to just buy stuff, go to Netflix, then if they decide something should not be available there, then you cannot see it, right? So if we have this, pay as you go, you can, if anybody who has good content, he doesn't have to aggregate like millions of users before it turn a profit by selling ads, right? You can just, even if it's a niche thing, right? For example, even talk about at this moment, sCrypt, right? It's kind of like still, we love it, but it's kind of like a niche thing. But some people, they want to find out information about it. We just put it on, let's say, sCrypt.io. These few videos, even it's not on Netflix or YouTube, but you can still monetize it, right? So that means you got a more like I wouldn't say decentralized to be that way, because even you are smallish, you can still monetize it. It doesn't matter how many the users for the whole platform is. So hopefully it will, act as a counterforce for all this centralized platform.
Yeah, I'm all for that. I'm not even against this idea. I think it's a great idea and I think it's better. But I'm just saying, what do you think the consequences of paying per seconds will be on the arts of movie creation?
You make it, you have to make every second or every minute count, right? Because
yeah, exactly.
You cannot just make some fancy trailers. That's good for consumers.
A cliffhanger, I don't know. So I think that you have to have a cliffhanger every 2 seconds or every 2 minutes.
I know, right? I think, yeah, people, it's like,
I don't know if that would be positive or negative.
You can decide the interval, right? So how many chunks you want to cut it into? You can be 1 second, probably too much, right? It's a movie, right? I don't think people pay attention to this. Maybe do it every 5 minutes. Yeah, every 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right? If you think, oh, okay, if I can skip this all 10 minutes, I can go to a bathroom. I'm not missing anything, right? So why bother?
The slow burn, emotive style of filmmaking, right? It has a place, right? And people do enjoy that sort of thing as well as the diehard. Somebody gets offed every few seconds. Oh, it reminds me that Christmas is coming. I need to line up my diehard watching list again.
I watched you guys heard about Matrix 4 is coming this Christmas.
Really?
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because
That's an interesting thing.
yeah,
Releasing
I've never
Matrix the
seen it in a
Christmas movie?
theater. Yeah, I've never seen it in a theater, so maybe. Go ahead.
So one of the interesting consequences from a product standpoint, though, right, is I wonder if right now, if you think of the way in which we monetize products on the internet, for example, whatever product, you typically have different payment tiers, right? You might have a freemium tier, and then you immediately go from freemium, full freemium, with sort of features to 100% paid product. For content, I wonder if there isn't going to maybe end up being a transitional entry between full-on freemium and paid product, which is streaming trial, where you don't have to commit to the full month's worth of payment, but you can sort of sample the content here and there,
Yes.
but still pay for it without
Yes.
committing to make a big commitment.
Yes.
With the intention,
How many times you guys online see some articles, when you click the article, it leads to some random websites, you have to pay a subscription to view the one single article. How many times you give up, right?
Right.
Or even
hundreds.
big newspaper, Wall Street Journal, right? Sometimes I just want to see this new one article. I don't want to subscribe to have a monthly subscription or yearly. I just want to read a few articles too, right? Because for now you cannot do it easily, right? Imagine you have this, right? You can just, you have to, you can one way to divide these articles into different pieces, or you can divide your whole publication, right, into just each chunk is one article, right? Then you can pay per article also, which most time you for me, at least from my personal experience, a lot of time I just want to see this article. I don't want to subscribe to like Times or whatnot.
How do you guys think this? Go for it, Kevin.
I think there'll be different models, and so there'll be all sorts of different things. But I'm just wondering what it would be like. What would the media evolve to be like if you're paying per second? What are you gonna say, Stefan?
I was going to ask about what the tech ends up looking like from the point of view of the developer who has to build out. Let's say, for example, we're talking web streaming, right? One of the consequences of this is going to probably be that there's going to need to be key management, signing, transaction composition. All of this stuff has to go into, if it's in the browser, it has to go into the browser with JavaScript. This ends up adding weight to the page load, which in turn negatively impacts retention. People bounce, the bounce rates get affected. So these are interesting things that I don't have answers for, but that I do think will factor into the sort of rates of adoption of the technology.
Well,
that's what we're here for, right? We can wrap all these things around in good libraries, SDKs, and even turnkey solutions, so other people don't have to know all the details. Go ahead, Ty.
Yeah. I agree with what Stefan mentioned in terms of in terms of the technology. If you're using like a mobile app, because I think it's very rare. The rarest occasion would be mobile web, right? You have mobile app, you have desktop app, and you have desktop web. And so for a lot of these things, what you can do is, and what Babbage is doing, you have a local process running on the computer that manages transaction composition, which is what the create action function is in my SDK, for example, and signing and key management and all this stuff, to provide an open-ended interface so that sites can just talk over localhost to a server that runs on the computer itself, and that creates these transactions, signs them off with user keys, manages permissions, all of that. The app doesn't have to worry about wrapping that up in JavaScript and everything. So from the technical perspective, that's the way that I go about solving it. And that's different than any other of the platforms like money button, it's embedded iframe and load the iframe and load all the JavaScript. And then if their iframe, if that website ever goes down on secure.moneybutton.com or whatever, it might create a problem. But whenever a user has a local server running on their computer on localhost that manages this, this would be possible to build as a tangible implementation. You could take a video, split it up with Merkle trees, encrypt each piece with a key on one of the Babbage user key rings, and that could be done right now. I could, in fact, I might actually go do that because it seems like a good idea. And by the way, Xiaohui, I did not think until now of splitting the video up into a Merkle tree. I was thinking of using a hash chain where you start with the end and then go forward. But the problem with that is that you can't really do seeking. I can't say, well, give me the one at 27 minutes, because I have to know about every single thing and process the entire video up to that point in order to validate my hash chain. But with a Merkle tree, that's a really, I'm probably, that unblocked one of the things I was kind of stuck on. So,
nice.
so thank you for showing this graphic.
No problem. Okay, man.
So one of the, can you guys hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Yes.
Okay. So one of the problems that I was facing with these kind of services, special, even with Streamanity, if something goes wrong with the network, even on the user side or on the server side, because I bought a couple of videos streaming on Streamanity, and just the network just didn't work, and I had to go back and get it again. I wasn't able to claim the payment and neither the video. So for those kind of issues, I think this this with this Merkle tree kind of thing. So if something say 27 minutes, between 27 minutes and 28 minutes, if that all of a sudden there's no network or there's no just for that particular piece, if it goes wrong, we should be able to claim that, claim the fee, or claim it and so forth. So I think that's going to definitely help out as well. This is really cool. This is really cool. Yes, I think
very good point. I almost add this point into the benefit here because I don't want to brag too much about it. Because another benefit, right, as Samir just talked about, if you go to Netflix or anything, sometimes it's a drop, right? But you already bought the whole movie or the whole subscription. But here's in this mode, if you use in a payment channel, so you pay per chunk, right, or pay even a frame. Even if the service gets disconnected, you can resume and you can start again. You don't have to pay any extra. You can even, extreme case, right? If let's say you go to Netflix to stream this, and in the middle it gets cut off, you can go to another Streamanity. If it's the same movie, right? You can say, oh, I start from minute 27. You just keep going. It doesn't matter. Or maybe you can even have some kind of aggregate service, right? It's more robust. So this user only talk to aggregate side, and this side behind it has branched out to multiple, let's say, service provider. So you can, it is more robust, right? Or maybe some places get blocked, right? Firewall, whatever. So it just have a lot of other benefits as well. And also to tie, anytime you have a Bitcoin problem, technical, throw in a Merkle tree, usually solve it. So that's how I say.
That's really cool.
It's not untrue, actually. Key management, even I made, everybody had this issue with, well, a user only has 2 keys or something that you manage, but I just used a BIP32 tree, and it's similar because it's well, we'll just add a tree to the equation, and suddenly now we have billions and billions of keys. We have entire universes of keys to work with because they're in this tree structure. So that's a very good point, and I hadn't really considered it for this particular application. I think in terms of the storage of content, like you're talking about on multiple servers, you can do that with NanoStore. You have the video stored and it's encrypted, right? Video is encrypted, so the keys can decrypt it, but the encrypted copy is redundantly available, and you just provide the UHRP URL to that encrypted blob, and no matter what you're doing, or no matter what what server, what physical server you're talking to, any server can fulfill that, and they can also do range requests. And so eventually there's going to be a higher layer on top of NanoStore that supports Merkle tree based, hash instead of just a SHA-256 hash of the content. And so I think that'll certainly improve the, you'll be able to do range requests and things like that and still validate and things. And you combine that with certain types of symmetric encryption, you can do range requests on encrypted data. And if you build a video player that supports all of these crazy things, then you'll have access to encrypted video with all the features that you have with normal video on the internet.
Help me understand here with the payment channel, because we're talking about, so you can go with multiple servers from multiple places, but with the payment channel you're establishing a connection with one server, because it's not the UTXO is not fully spent until like the whole video is seen or watched. No, isn't that the case? Or even though you're spending like per minute, you're spending a UTXO per minute, but the overall channel doesn't really kind of like close until the whole movie is seen and done. Okay. So in that case, like if you're going to multiple servers, how is that going to happen?
So good question. Actually, I talk about this in this section, basically how the channel is going to be closed. So you're correct. I mean, normally, I think mostly if everything goes right, you watch the whole movie and then you together close the channel, right? That's probably the most likely outcome. But also you can close it at any moment as well. So basically, you open the channel, you update the channel, and then you close. When you close, you can you reach the end of the movie, or you can be anytime in between that. Because for example, you watch the first 5 minutes, you say, oh, this is not worth my money. So you can unilaterally close this at any moment as well too. But at the beginning and the end, then 2 transactions. Doesn't matter how long this lasts. That's the benefit of the payment channel, right? Because all the intermediate steps, for example, let's say you cut the 2-hour movie into, 100 pieces, right? Because if you're not using payment channel, what end up is every intermediate transaction has also been settled on chain. That's usually not economic, right? So it has both the security benefit and also you save the cost.
Yep. So when we talk about Alice and Bob, because I don't think we can really bring, because we have a channel open with Alice, between Alice and Bob, we can't really bring say John in between, right? Because unless you're closing every minute and moving, it's on chain. That if it's every minute you're closing your UTXO spent, then you can keep on probably moving between different like users, but I don't like once a channel established between Alice and Bob, the whole transaction until it's spent and on chain, you can't really move to John in between.
Yes.
Right? Yes.
I haven't. Yeah, you are right. So I haven't checked. Maybe there's some. I don't know. You guys are aware? You can do a multi-party payment channel.
Multiple.
Here's the thing, right? Even with for the 2 parties, right? I'm saying is you can. It's not like let's say Charlie joins this this channel between Alice and Bob. If Bob, let's say this is Netflix, right? If this channel now somehow get disconnected, Alice will settle this by close this channel. Then he will go to, let's say, Charlie, like YouTube, to open another 2-party channel with Charlie and then keep streaming from where he left before. It's not like some third party joins here. Does that make sense? He has to close it. He has to close it and then create another channel with Charlie.
Got it. Okay, so because the movie is distributed, it's distributed.
Yeah, everybody has it. Hopefully.
Yeah, everybody. Okay, I think that makes sense. That makes sense. I think in that case, I think it's probably possible with what we were saying. Yes, makes sense.
You could also have like multiple payment channels open at the same time. Think of any torrent streaming service, but with payments, you could actually peers.
Whoever deliver the next frame.
Right. Have a race.
Pay, right?
Got it.
Yeah.
That is
So
so
it's,
cool.
You can have multiple in the single transaction as well, if I'm not mistaken. Well, you have multiple inputs and multiple. Go ahead, Stefan.
Sorry, I was going to ask. So one thing that the article doesn't account for is buffering, and I'm assuming that for read ahead and streaming ahead for buffering purposes, that you probably want to have a different type of interaction, which is non-final, a non-final commitment. I don't know. Have you thought about that?
Can you say it again? I'm not sure I'm following.
Okay, so if you look at the way, for example, which a YouTube video will stream to your computer, right, is that the playhead is behind where the actual downloaded content head is. The content stream
buffering.
Yeah, so it buffers so that you don't end up jerking, right? So you end up with a jerky video. So that buffering, because you are actually getting more data than what you're watching ahead at the moment, that buffered content you haven't actually watched yet, but you also don't want to end up paying for that necessarily, right? Have you thought about how one would account for that? Because you do want buffering, presumably.
I have a solution, I think. You can use this entire mechanism that is described in this article only to distribute keys to the content. Then you have the encrypted blob itself, not in the transactions, but you're buying the keys that unlock. You read ahead the encrypted blob, and you only buy the keys as you decrypt it. So the keys are very low bandwidth. They're very, 32 bytes, 256-bit key for one chunk. But the data itself is not part of this, is one way to do it. And that's the way that I would do it if I was building this.
Actually a cool solution to essentially have two streams.
XOR.
Well, it's not even two strings. It's just two streams rather. It's just the
you can put together as
blob.
well.
You have the blob, which sits somewhere, like you could put it on NanoStore or whatever. But then you could have your keys that you're buying. And you could buy that from one place or buy it from a second place or whatever. Whoever's going to sell you that key, whoever's going to claim that's the key to that, they're selling it to you because they have the right to sell it. They have a license from whoever, right? But just decrypt it as you go along, but download it ahead of time. So that way you have it locally. You don't have to, you have the same properties as how buffering works now in that case.
Right.
Yeah,
as long as the keys aren't compromised.
They've got to be correct. Oh, you mean somebody else could? I see what you're saying.
Leak it, and then you lose revenue from the
right. I mean,
or else you have an encrypted stream per purchase essentially.
You could do encrypted stream per purchase, or you could do one of those really proprietary things that people don't really like, where you have like a what's it called? No. Well, yes, a watermark, but not even that. I'm thinking that you could actually have a private key embedded in the hardware of the device, like how you have now with Blu-ray. And everybody hates that, I know, but you distribute these players, or you distribute like a proprietary chip of some kind that has a private key. Then you can do your whole, here's either a certified public key and do it that way, or a Diffie-Hellman something or other to get the key to the user, but make it such that, the user can never get that key out of that device. In the same way, like how an HSM, if I put a key in my HSM, like nobody's getting that key out, because if they try to, they'll break the device, or they'll destroy the key while trying to extract it because of the way that the device works or something. And I'm not a hardware expert, but some of those types of things could be employed. I don't like that because it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. It's kind of more, but I'm sure there's plenty of people at Disney and Sony and whoever else that might like to investigate that further.
Yeah, for those kind of issues, I would, how do you protect kind of like a DRM, digital rights management? I think just use existing solutions. We don't have to. We only have to add the Bitcoin related stuff, but anything else, even your let's say you want to protect the data privacy, right? I think here, even on the patent itself, it says there's a section specifically talk about it called the data encryption. Yeah, but yeah, it's good you independent come up with this problem, yeah, because they already have this in mind.
Which patent are we looking at?
Oh, basically, this the whole thing is based on this patent. This with this number, you can just click. It will take you. I just sharing Slack as well.
Okay, got it.
I mean, if I do want to decrypt this and get the data without it, I can just open up OBS and record the video as it's playing or something, and do it that way. So it goes back to the fundamental problem. Yes. I think it's fundamental to information. What's it, information theory, which is I know a thing and I have to know the thing in order to experience the thing, and now I can share the thing, and I can just like point my phone at the screen or something and do it that way too. But yeah, I mean,
CamRip. Get out of here with your low quality CamRips.
Yes. Same with almost like an NFT, right? You can steal it. I mean, in theory, right? Or in practice,
one of the interesting ideas is that you could actually document who's, like with Snapchat, what they did is they had it so if you take the screenshot, then it says that this person took a screenshot. And of course, you can do the camera on, like you take a picture of the picture on Snapchat probably, but it's not going to be low quality. But there's something about the alerting the person that this person took a screenshot, that it just disincentivizes anybody from even trying to do it, which is sort of an interesting thing. So you might be able to set up social incentives to not copy it, but yeah, that's always a very difficult situation, is how do you prevent people from just taking a picture?
Yeah, I mean, as interesting as this stuff is, it's beyond the scope of like the blockchain aspect, but still like it would be cool to mess around with, and Bitcoin gives us more like knobs we can turn to mess around with it, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, if it's the way I see it, if people can just pay on demand, like as they watch, it's probably going to drive the price even lower. So you
less
probably,
incentive
to like violate the copyright, because if I'm paying $10, I may do it, sometime, right? If it's like 10 cents, I mean, I would rather just pay for it, right? So that's another angle.
Yeah,
and also like
that is go for it, Mike.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that I would love to see like a streaming service where you could pay for each frame, so you could adjust the frame rate, for example, like 60 frames per. Yeah.
Or quality.
So you just pay double for the double frame rate, and
SVD.
also resolution. Like why would you watch? Like for example, watching for Netflix, right? You have to pay like a higher tier subscription to watch 4K videos, but most of the movies, like I watch a lot of older movies, like why would I watch an old movie in 4K? Why would I pay that? Maybe I watch one movie, like a newer one in 4K in like a year or something. So yeah, that's something I would love to actually have.
Okay.
So I don't have to pay all these like subscriptions and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could
imagine you could have for even given for a given movie title, right? You have a different tiers of data quality, so that you pay premium for higher resolution.
Yeah.
Has anybody actually built anything like this ever? Even as a proof of concept?
Yeah, probably you can be the first one.
I don't have time. I don't have time, but I've already composed in my head how I'm going to do this with GStreamer, but I don't have the time.
It'll be a good hackathon project, I would imagine.
Just do
Yeah,
like
for
a
sure.
GStreamer command and I run it. I tested in Bash, like, you know.
What is this GStream?
GStreamer. It's
Just
you construct data manipulation pipelines. It's usually used for video and audio, but you could use any data you want. I think
Okay.
some research organization actually uses it heavily for like space, like satellites imagery or
Okay.
something like that. Yeah.
Can you share in the Slack? Okay.
Yeah.
Because my hope is somebody watch this video, either one of us or somebody watching this build like a prototype. It'll be very
Do you
cool.
guys know what LIGO is? The guys who detected like the gravitational waves.
I think I heard about this.
They
Oh,
use
okay.
GStreamer, I think, for
Oh, okay.
analyzing all this data. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like
Hmm.
GStreamer.
Okay.
Just this week, I posted on Slack about the sending of, or the use of this this concept. I wanted to find a JavaScript library that can do
Mhm.
this stuff in a browser. And the reason why I want to do everything in browser, like I want to compile sCrypt contracts in browser, I want to do all this stuff in browser, is because there is no server in the architecture that I'm working in. There is no non-client system except for derived systems from chain. So clients write things to chain, and then you derive the state from chain. And so that's why everything has to be running on the client. And right now, clients are mainly JavaScript browsers or eventually mobile applications, although I'm not even there yet. So, but yeah, it would be nice to have basically, here's a video as an input, really high quality, and then the output is low quality video plus a key, and I can use that key with the low quality video to turn it into the high quality video or something like that. And maybe the more of the key I reveal, the higher the quality the output video is or something. So
Yes.
if I reveal like 10 bits of the key, then, you know, it gets a little, well, 10 bits is not a lot, but
Don't satellite TV providers use that methodology? Because, you know, satellite stream only one stream, and then I think they use something similar, but I'm not sure how open that stuff is. But they use some key-based like decryption that you could actually filter out the specific resolution and quality.
Broadcast encryption type. Craig talked about this, but I'm not too familiar with those things.
Yeah, another concept I'm also investigating here is being talked about for like at least 5 times, broadcast encryption. I haven't got anything built there yet, but you guys can also check broadcast encryption. Yeah, here's mentioned this for like, I don't know, at least 5 times. Yeah, it's using like a TV satellites streaming.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Okay.
I'm completely ignorant of machine learning, so I have no idea what the single value decomposition is.
Yeah, check out that video. I think Tai just mentioned the use case, right? For example, you go to some website, you want to see some, high definition either picture or movies, they can just give you a low quality one, right? Like all this, Ethereum blocks, if you want to see the original one, you have to pay, but you can put a contract there, right? The contract says, if you give me the higher quality of this picture, I will pay like, let's say 500 satoshis. So, but how do you check? This is a more high resolution. You have a way. Basically, this SVD is a way for you to know this is actually a better quality version of the low quality pixel picture.
Got it.
So any other questions or comments about the techniques here, the contract or malleability? Because for me, I think this is cool because this is the first contract that use transaction malleability. So, and it's super short. So it's like a few lines.
I think so
You guys,
far, just as feedback, I think so far this is one of the best use cases I've seen. Is
cool.
being able to do this kind of stuff. So yeah, but have to look at it in some more detail.
And always the funny thing is, you guys, if you know like a Bitcoin core, that fix this bug, right? Because they always say that malleability is a bug.
Yeah.
And
can you explain the malleability? Did we go over that or?
Yeah, sure. Malleability basically means if you got a transaction, right, and it's signed, usually you cannot change it without breaking the signature, right? But in certain cases, it's designed in that way. Satoshi almost have this in mind, this kind of application in mind. If I give you some transaction signed, there are some ways you can modify this without invalidating the signature, right? So usually there are two ways. One as I call the script level. Basically, if you know how the signature is generated, is you basically sign the SIG-hash per image, right? And the per image covers some fields, but one big field doesn't cover is unlocking script itself, because that's where the signature is going to, right? The signature cannot cover the signature, so that part you can a lot of time you can manage it, you can change it without breaking the signature. Another one, I think we have an entire episode dedicated to it, right? The SIG-hash flags. So basically, you can also, at the transaction level, you can use SIG-hash, all, none, anyone can pay. You can choose which input, which outputs go into signature, meaning the rest of the inputs and outputs, you can manipulate them without breaking the signatures, right? Make sense?
More or less, I'm going to watch it back.
Okay. So basically, you can give you a transaction, you can change it, you can modify it, and it's still valid. That's what the malleability means here. Because then the core developers, a lot of other developers think this is a bad thing because, for example, Lightning, right? You have to give out these transactions and sign it, but if you can change it, then the transaction ID changes, right? And then they have bring a lot of other issues. But it turns out that's why they have a lot of VIP to try to fix this malleability. But it turns out you can actually, it's a feature you can use. That's another thing good about it. The funny about this article is actually is a lot of time they think it's a bug, but it's actually intended.
Well, it's kind of like what we were talking about with payment channels a little bit. I mean, is there like a new, we're just passing on a transaction, but we're not, I guess with the SIG-hash flag signing all of it or something. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, there are two levels, right? As I mentioned, that's why it's called I call it transaction level. You use a SIG-hash
so that's what we've talked about before.
Yeah, we talk about, but in this article, I focus on the script level. Basically, given this picture, right? So basically, this is you think about this Netflix. This is the user. The user gets some payment transaction, and then the Netflix they can sign it, right? They can redeem it. He can use his own private key, and also he can use the chunk, a chunk of a movie to redeem this. But usually they don't want to use this chunk because first of all, they don't want to, record this on chain, right? Because then everybody can see it. So second, this usually is big, right? Because if you're streaming, let's say break into 1 minute or 10 minutes, 4K videos, this is going to be big. So they have to pay a lot of transaction fee to take the user's money, right? So actually the user, because most of the time, right, the user can cooperate. So he can take this transaction, the user's Alice, right? He can replace this data with his own signature, but without breaking the previous signature is already there. So that's why it's called this feature is required for this payment channel scheme to work. Because without this, this cannot work properly. Because this one is both big and also is private information. So you need this feature to work actually. So you see here.
All right. So wait, I don't
change
understand.
Here to here.
Okay, so he replaces the data thing instead with Alice.
With
but
her
what
signature.
significance? But why is that significant?
Imagine this, right? This is the data for a movie. This can be like, I don't know, 1 megabytes or 10 megabytes, right? Usually, if Netflix, they don't want to pay for transaction fee for this big, just to take, earn some 1 cent, right? Because the user is paying 1 cent, let's say, or a fraction of a cent for this frame, right? But this frame itself is like 10 megabytes. If you want to redeem it, it may cost you like half of the money you're getting paid, right? So that's not economic. And also, this is movie data, right? You don't want to, unless you are encrypting it, you don't want to put it on chain, right? Because otherwise everybody can see. So it has great incentive to cooperate with the user. So the user will take this and then change it to his own signature without break. And this is still valid. He can just broadcast it, get paid.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it's.
But does Alice
yeah.
does the Alice signature have some sort of thing built in where it's like a hash of the data or something?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I see.
Basically, it's like a hash pattern. If you can read the code, it's actually just 5 lines. So you talk about how do you redeem this? Either you provide the data or Alice signs.
Okay.
Signs the data.
No, it's just the transaction. You don't sign data. You sign the transaction.
Okay. But
yeah,
you have a hash
give you a
of the
high
data?
level idea. Yes, you have to put the hash because that's what you expect, right? Because before you start the streaming, the Netflix tell you what all the hashes for each frame, let's say, and then you always know, right? Once you have the first, you update. Oh, now I'm expecting the next H1, H2, H3, right? But this is different from ties, right? Because in ties original scheme, this is the chain hashes, right? But now it forms in a hierarchical tree, right?
Right. So this way, supposedly, it's easier for skipping around.
Mm-hmm. And also this, because it's the root hash, right? This is almost like a public utility. You can go to many websites to check. Oh, this is what the matrix 1. What is the hash? Matrix 2. What is the root of the hash? So you can also don't have to trust any website, because what if I go to some like rogue website? It claims they have matrix 4. I already paid it, but it turns out it's not valid, right? When you get it, before you even start the payment, you can check the hash. Does this match the official one? It's almost like an empty file, right? So you can know this is legit. So acts as a few purposes here.
Great. I'll read this more and I'll watch it. So, but yeah, this okay. I like the idea of doing this stuff for streaming. It's very cool. And when I was playing the devil's advocate, I wasn't against the idea. I'm just trying to understand understand what would happen if everybody's paying per second.
Yeah, I mean the incentives do change, and that will change the content of what is being consumed. I mean,
absolutely.
That'll change the motives.
There's this phrase called "the medium is the message," and it's by this. It was like he's described as a savant, but I think it was in I forget exactly when. It was like the 60s or the 70s or something. But this guy, he had all these like really cool just interviews where he's talking about the effect of media on society and how it changes things. And he had a lot of interesting ideas, but his most famous one was the medium is the message. And it's like, well, what do you mean? And it's like, the actual effect that television has on people physically is far more profound than the effect of whatever content they're consuming. It's like we organize our houses. Yeah, Marshall McLuhan, JT, thanks. But we organize it around, we organize our houses around the television now. how does that interfere with people and their ability to communicate? Like our architecture changes. Like the fact that we have cell phones, how does that physically affect people's communication, where now there's this thing that can interrupt people at any moment? You know what I mean? It's like the medium has far more effect than the content, but everybody focuses on the content as if that's what matters. But the medium is actually what should be studied, is kind of what he's talking about. It's really good information.
Has anyone seen I Hate Telephones by Jim Fisher by chance?
I have not,
Kevin,
no.
you just reminded me of this. I'm going to share it in Slack. It's just a
cool.
slightly hilarious article that's very related to this. It's talking about how we've decided, and this is before like iPhones even, this is written, I don't know, a long time ago, about how these people just decide to put these alarms in their house that anybody can anonymously send blaring at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then there's a person that answers, and they've got this, they're on the line, like breathing all heavily and whispering really creepily. And they're like, would you like to buy some life insurance because your life could be in danger? And about these telemarketers, I just sent the link in the.
That's what it seems like now. I don't know. Do you guys get junk calls? Like, I just have one right here. I get junk calls all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dang, dude. Like, and I'm like in the middle of something, and then boom, you get a junk call. And so now I've completely turned off, like, if you're not in my contacts list, like the call won't go through. But now it's annoying because sometimes, like, some delivery guy or like something important, somebody might need to get a hold of me, and now they can't. And it's like, it's really annoying. But your little thing about the alarms blazing,
just use switch to Bitcoin phone. The
scammer
is going to pay you. Ask them pay per second to scam you, right?
Charge them.
Yeah, this is a good idea to pair this payment channel streaming with a Bitcoin phone. I think that would be super cool.
Better signaling system. We think of signaling system. How about signaling system 7.1 or signaling system 8? I think that'll be a better approach than our current signaling system that we have.
I want exponential ramp up on my fees for Bitcoin phone.
Yeah. It's like this troll tax. The trash has
troll
but in audio, troll, yeah.
Talking about the the business model of like say the insurance, right? Because for them to sell their insurance, they have to not only advertise, but also on the other side trying to create those chaos so that people would want to feel like, yeah, you do need the insurance. Does that really does that happen in the real world where people just because it's a business, right? They want to make money.
Of course.
That's called extortion.
But does that happen in the real world?
Okay, I'll give you a very concrete example. Right?
Yeah.
You guys heard about the Omicron variant, right? So, call me a conspiracy theory. Somehow this coincidence with a lot of boosters. So, I'm just conspiracy. So serious. Yeah. Somehow the timing.
We have to be careful what we say because this is going to be shown on YouTube and it's going to be censored.
But yeah, I think I agree with you. Like even the pharmaceuticals, because it's about the business, and the business model is to make profit, and the only way to make profit is to create to create an environment where they can sell stuff. It may not be intentional, but because
it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, but it's an infinite. We live in an finite world. So if we're creating a profit out of a business, then there has to be that other side where unless if it's an infinite world, that's a different story. But in a finite world, there has to be give and take. So, but how does Bitcoin kind of like fix this? Does it fix?
Well, I mean, look, it's just what I was saying about the incentives with the attention merchants book. And that's why I was saying, well, what's going to happen once we have the per second viewing? Anytime we're actually paying directly for content where the, you know, the actual customer is the end user instead of the end user being the product for the advertisers, you're going to have better, more factual content. But these are the things that we should consider, because that's what, you know, like Facebook should have considered, but instead they just kind of grew like a weed and they didn't think about it. Like, you remember the Chamath Palihapitiya thing? He says, in the back of our minds, we kind of knew that something bad could happen, but we didn't define it like this, blah, 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 blah. And then he talks about all how, you know, Facebook is ripping apart the social fabric of how society works. But it's because nobody considered these things, these second order consequences of what happens when you do this kind of thing. And they just said, oh, we're going to do advertising and that's going to work. And we're just, you know, we're done. So
I think to Samir's question, I think my take is the Bitcoin does not directly fix this. Like you see all this Bitcoiners, maximalists talking on Twitter. It's like, whatever issue you have, world hunger, climate change, Bitcoin fix this, right? I don't think it's like work like
no,
it's a tool, right? It's like an internet.
Yeah.
So for example, I think I agree a lot with Kevin on this. Basically, it offers alternative, right, to build the business model such that this business model is aligned with both the you know, shareholder value, but also the societal value, right? For example, right, here, right, the Netflix, right, because they want to attract me to watch all kinds of videos, so they push all this kind of you know, crazy stories. I have to click base. But what if you just have good quality, right? So, you know, the platform benefits, the content creator benefit, and also as an end user, you also benefit, you know, to watch, you know, non-sensational content as well, right? It's a tool to align the business model. How do you design the incentive? So that's like a billion-dollar question.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I found with that had changed me personally is the way I look at things from a perspective of incentive, giving incentive to good things versus costing or punishing the bad things. Because it's like if you punish the bad things, yes, you're still solving some kind of problem, but down the line in the future, I think that brings negative impact versus if we are incentivizing good work, and I think incentivizing good work allows people to be more in terms of in the future. I think it allows people to be more optimistic and positive and create a better system. So I think that's how I found Bitcoin a little bit different than the current like proof of stake systems. I put it that way. Because it's basically costing. There's a cost. The idea is there's a cost to do bad things, but that doesn't really help over time to create a better society.
The first time I heard of this idea, right, was I haven't actually read this book yet, but I guess I kind of got the idea, which is the book. The title is Nudge. It's a book on economics and how you can sort of structure economic incentives to nudge things in particular directions. I think the idea got sort of adopted in a lot of government and municipal structures for how they would like to structure society and incentivize human behavior in particular directions. But yeah, the book is called Nudge.
Yeah, and that's reminded me, and I've been trying to explain this. Would like to do a video at one point, but I need some sort of better medium where I could do my videos without advertising. Right now, it's just like a video. I get completely overwhelmed and I make no money and I just get completely sidetracked from what I actually work on. But anyways, one of the videos I want to do is explaining how in a capitalist system, people can do incentives and they can do that kind of stuff, but there's nobody dictating what you have to do. And that's like really the beauty of capitalism. And we've kind of lost that recently with this whole emergency orders. People are dictating to us like what we have to do. But it's like, it's like, wait, what about capitalism, and what about people get to choose for themselves? So you get to voluntarily choose if you exchange, whereas in a kind of command economy, somebody's telling you what you have to do. And so I'm fine with people like trying to offer me money to do stuff, whatever, but as long as nobody's telling me like you have to do this or else we're gonna like bring the military, arrest you or kill you, or it's like, Jesus, you know what I mean? So
just ask them to use payment channels, man. That's
Yep.
that's the solution.
Payment channels will save us all from the next Stalin.
Yes, you get paid. Oh.
Yeah. I was, I'm going to tell a short story. I was in that New York CoinGate conference, and I think it was on the last day. There was these agents from compliance, and one of the agent was from the IRS, and I had a short chat with him just after his presentation was done, or his kind of like a conference was done, and I asked him like, what's the goal of your agency, like the IRS? Is it to grow, or is it to have a smaller group? Because if the goal of the agency is to grow, that means like you have to create somehow in the society, because going back to the finite game, somehow you have to create bad actors in the society. So unintentionally, you're creating bad actors. Because if the idea of the agency is to grow and it keep growing, and at the end of the day, all of these agents are an employee of these agencies, so they have their own personal profit as well. They need to survive, they need to make money. So that means like overall idea is to define bad actors so they can make their own profit. So unintentionally, yeah, the agency's idea is to create a better society so that we don't have nefarious activities. But if your goal is to grow, that means there's somehow there's more bad actors being created in the society.
But the IRS makes money also just by people paying taxes, right? It doesn't have to go find people that aren't paying taxes, right?
Yeah, that is there as well. But in terms of the idea and philosophy of the agency is not to, it should not be to grow, don't you think? Or is it should be?
That's
well,
just look at Australia ATO, right? What they did to Craig.
Yeah.
We talked about this before, actually, and I know. Let's see. When we were talking about this before, we brought up many different industries that this applies to, and it seems as though when the goal is growth, that does make sense. And I guess for the the people that are going to try to take out of context. And just for clarification, I was in fact being sarcastic when I said that payment channels are going to rescue us from the next Stalin, because somebody's going to take that and say, "Oh, hey, look, Tai says X, Y, Z." But let's see. I mean, one of the things that I think, Kevin, last time we were talking about this, you brought up was like pharmaceuticals and other people like that who work in the same way. They try to solve a problem, or their quote unquote goal is to solve certain problems, and they achieve that goal by, they think they want to get bigger, and the way they get bigger is by making the problem worse. And so I think this is a discussion that we kind of started to have at some point.
Yeah.
I think what I was making the point with that was that the whole, like, we used to have a very competitive medical market where just all sorts of different people had all sorts of ideas. You'd have, the herbalist competing with the chiropractor, competing with the medical doctor, competing. Everybody was on a level playing field. But then with I think the title or one of the topics in that video was, is it ethical? It wasn't the title, but when I shared it, I put it as one of the topics is it ethical to give away money? And what happened was, in the medical industry, is that Rockefeller gave away a bunch of money, and he put medical doctors above everybody else with those donations. And so they didn't get to their place organically, meaning that like, customer satisfaction and that they got to that place through a bunch of donations. And then, and now the question is, well, how do we, and then they've done all sorts of things, monopolizing and changing the laws. And in many places, they're the only person that can treat different things legally. And it's just a mess. And so we don't have a truly capitalist medical market, which is really kind of sad, because a lot of solutions that are out there that can't get any attention because they're driven out of existence. And at the end of the day, that's like not helping us as a nation, because we want to have healthy people. And so what I was saying in that video is the goal to have healthy people, or is the goal to make money?
Yes.
And so
yeah, I think that's what is really key. Great
we
question.
want to have the goal be healthy people. And so it's not about mercantilism, which is putting the money above everything else. It's about actually having healthy people. So that's what we want to remember.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I think it's top of the hour again. Probably we can leave this gigantic topic to the next time. So.
All right.
Yeah, if we achieve the goal of having healthy people, then you're not really gonna make money.
Well, that's what I'm working on, and I think you can. Whole Foods did a pretty good job. But we could take it to the next level.
Yeah, I think Bitcoin philosophy does probably help that, with the idea of how we really want to solve the problems in society, using these principles. So I think that's good.
Yeah.
Positive stuff.
All right, yeah, let's keep the vibes positive. Okay, so any closing quick thought? Oh, by the way, JT, welcome here. I haven't got a chance to talk to you, so I don't know you guys
Yes, welcome.
met or... Okay, welcome here.
Yeah, I just got it started reading the documentation, and I'm just trying to take it all in.
Okay, welcome. Yeah, we meet every Friday, so you have anything you can ask in the Slack or join our live stream. Well, we're always here, so you welcome to join us anytime.
It would be interesting to live stream these meetups if you guys think, because then what we could do is we could have like people from around, we could post a link on the MetaNet Slack and whatever else, and people could like pose questions to us, and that could be an interesting mechanism of getting new topics as well as interacting. So just a thought.
It could we need to have a more formal, to be honest, we need to have a more formal way of doing that. Like when it drives me nuts sometimes, like when I did the live stream with Kurt, like there's just like these things popping up in your face, and it's like you're trying to talk about this, but then you have these other ones coming in, and it's like all over the place. But if you have like a form, I don't know, we could experiment with it. I really like just seeing people's faces and talking, and
actually, I have a question on the sCrypt before we leave. So I try to run some demo, and I'm trying to, because I download the Visual Studio and Node.js, and then I'm trying to run like some demo contracts. So each contract I can run, and it's gonna create when it compiles, it creates those opcodes. Where do I go to see that? Because that's something that I'm trying to find out. There's
a file. There's a JSON file. You can go to. There's a folder called out / You can. There's a like
JSON or something.
Yeah, JSON. Yeah, sCrypt JSON something. You can just open and see it. Okay,
cool.
Or you can ask in the Slack if you cannot find it.
Okay, I'll do that. All right, sounds good.
Okay, no problem. All right, Kevin, I think you can stop the recording if you know how to do it. Okay.
Yep. So see you guys
goodbye,
next week.
Everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.
All right, guys.
See you
next week.
Bye.